Hey, let's take it higher. God told me to tell you, child, don't worry, keep it moving. If they walk out and you lose them, you just know that heaven still has your reward. It's your
I am born, raised, and forever pastor's child, a prophet, a seer, a dreamer, a visionary, a creative, a celibacy advocate, an infertility advocate, a businesswoman, and founder of Covenant Lifestyle, and an author of The Single Christian Girl in the City, A Celibacy Journey. When I was in a dark place, I was at the fork road with splitting with my friends, and I had just ended my 10-year rebellion, my reign of rebellion, and I had come to the end of myself. And I knew what was working for other people was not working for me. And that was when I realized I can't look at God as my parents' God. I got to look at him as my God. And I remember busting into my mother's room and saying, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I was raised in church my whole life, but being in church and having a relationship are two different things. So everything I tried to do on my own just failed. It never prospered. It never went to the next step. I didn't understand why everything was so hard for me. And I grew up quite privileged. So it was like, this has to be spiritual. So I started getting my life back. I rededicated my life to God. I started really doing a huge introspection in myself where it was forcing a mirror for me to see where my problems were. I had daddy issues. I had friend issues. I had men issues. I had issues all around that kept barricading me from moving forward, to being healed, to being the me that God literally created me to be. And I just remember asking God with tears in my eyes and my pillow being saturated with my tears, saying, if you don't do it, I can't. And that was the moment I knew everything was about to change. And I began real small, just reading books and then doing devotions and journaling daily and daily. And then God spoke to me in my room and said, it's time for the celibacy. And I was like, well, okay, then. Everybody else do it. 6 months later, I'm going to be married. Boom, boom, boom. I'm good. 1 year passed. I was like, oh, God, okay. Then I slipped. And he was like, oh, we're going to start over. And I was like, oh, God, no. Then another year passed. I was on the right track, and I'm like, well, everybody getting married. Why is it happening for them? What am I doing wrong? It's time to talk to your father. I was like, oh, God, I talk to you all the time. No, your father. And it was like, oh. And I'm born on my father's birthday. I'm the oldest, and I'm the only girl. So growing up, we had a very close relationship. And when my parents split, it was a ripping, both with his spiritual children and with his natural children the most. So my relationship with my father wasn't that intertwined as you would want it to be. So we started off slowly, and it was as if God was just forming everything like a complete, those cubes where you, the Rubik Cube. And it was so hard because it would hurt. Like, oh, I gotta open up to him. You want me to trust him again? And as I started trusting, it was like things just started falling off me. Things I vowed I would never do. I was an ordained dancer at my parents' church when I was younger. I vowed to never dance again. Started off being over the dance ministry. I started doing things I never said I would do. I said I would never go back to church. I started going back to church. It was like slowly he was pulling me back into him. And then as I forgave my father, I was able to forgive the men that I dated that was the complete opposite of my father purposely. And I had to come to the realization that this was a lot of self-hate I was dealing with. I dealt purposely with the type of men because I said, oh, I'll never marry a pastor. I will never be with a man inside the church. And those nevers, Satan kept using against me. It kept pushing me. Before I know it, I'm drinking like, I think they call it a binge drinker. I became a binge drinker. I would drink all night, pass out, don't remember anything. And they were like, oh, you did this. I don't remember it. And I found myself at the bottom of bottles trying to find this solution, and I couldn't. And when God gave me the revelation that it was with the Father, I was mad at God. I was mad at my natural father. And he was like, until you align with all three, you're going to be right here. This barricade is going to keep you from everything I have in my hand for you. And as I started rekindling kindling in my relationship with my father, things just started opening for me. It was like a bud. Like in the Bible, they talk about Aaron's bud. Things just started booming. And I'm like, all this time? I just had to do all this time? And now I can't preach. I can't prophesy. I can't do nothing. So I call my daddy, like, Daddy, I got this from God with this man. And it's like now it's what it would have been had I not put this wall up years ago. And then I started even opening up to my father about my sex life, which every father is like, you want to talk to your mom about that? And I was like, well, I'm doing celibacy and I'm getting this huge rejection from men. And he was like, well, most men aren't doing celibacy, especially if they're not in church. You're going to have to, I was like, no, church men are, no. They're the devil. They're not men of God. They are boys of Satan in church playing. And he was like, that's not everybody. And I'm like, yeah, I know how to play the game in the streets. But it's different when you playing the game in church, because everybody plays church, but they're not really doing church. They're not really representing what the church is as an individual person. And I'm like, I'm learning this new way to love, not just myself, but how to give grace to others, because I'm giving grace to myself. I'm extending it. I don't know how to do this in a relationship. I don't know how to. So a relationship comes. It was the most blissful, miserable, thought out dream I had ever had. I mean, it was a beautifully wrapped nightmare. And it set the tone for me to become an author, which I've had many people tell me, you're going to write books. And I'm like, I like blogging. It's simple. It's like my little diary. I let y'all know what I want y'all to know, and that's it. And I'm thinking we about to get married. Things were moving fast, and that's a no-no. When they're moving that fast, you got to start asking God, what is this? And I had to learn from just this relationship alone, who sent you? Because depending on who sent you, depends on whether you're going to derail me from my destiny or we're going to excel in my destiny. Because I knew who I was. I know what my calling is. I know what my purpose is. I'm a woman that's doing all of that. The man just has to come and compliment it. Match my anointing. That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking for lots. So this person came like that with the mask of everything I was asking God for, dreaming for. He read my blog, so he knew how to present himself to me. It was a dream. He did everything I could have thought. Let's do devotions. Let's pray together. I'm like, God, this is it. Oh my God. And then everything went south. The mask fell off. The truth was revealed. Things that was what once appeared loving was actually a form of manipulation. It was as if he groomed me to destroy me. And it pushed me to a place, not just mentally, but physically and emotionally. And it made my body shut down in places, in areas that I'm still asking God to awaken again. And I was glad I was able to escape the situation with my virtue. I was glad I was able to escape the situation with my honor still intact, which means I know this celibacy role is not just, oh, I'm worshiping God, and I know I get mocked about it. But it's a protection. It's a border around me where I'm not going to have unnecessary soul ties that I have to break. Was this hurtful? Very much. But I was able to get past it. It even made me question God, where it was like, well, why would you allow someone to come in this form? What was the lesson? So I wrote a book. Well, before the book was the blog piece, which sparked the book, was called Single Christian Girl in the City. And it was supposed to be like a Sex in the City vibe. And it was, hey, Christian girls mingling in the city. We trying to dodge the counterfeits. We're trying to understand how to maneuver around this. Don't go down this alley. Don't do this. You know, it was just rules to the game that most churches aren't teaching single women. And none of them are teaching men. You know, they're grooming the women to become wives, but the men aren't being groomed at all. And no, the church isn't preparing everybody for marriage. They're preparing everybody for the wedding. A lot of times, not every church, but we make that clear. Not every church, but a lot of churches are. It's, oh, you want to get married, and then in 6 or 7 months, these people are married. They're complete strangers. They don't understand each other. They're still growing in their calling and their purpose, and it causes a fraction. It causes friction between everything. They're having kids in this. I mean, it's producing a lot of pain versus everybody needs to be groomed in this. Let's get therapy. Let's talk about what happened. Please share with me what your mama did and what your daddy did. Because all of this, that environment lets me understand why you move the way you do, why you speak the way you speak, why you love the way, or why you don't receive the love the same way. All of this makes sense. Your behavior is impacted by the environment you grew up in. And it's not taught all the time. And with this young man opening up to me like that, I'm feeling sorry for him. And that was the game. I fell in love with somebody who was a narcissist and who was a professional narcissist. He was a psychologist. So his expertise was to play with the game, was to play with my mind. So I was in a mind game for months and didn't realize it. So it pushed me to write that blog, The Single Christian Girl. It was like, hey, ladies, we don't have to go through this. Hey, ladies, we can do this. Let's start a gang. It's us against them, and we ain't going down. You either coming correct or you ain't getting none at all. And that was really the thing. Like, I even kind of played on it where it was, may the odds be forever in your favor. Because it's hard out here to get a good Christian, God-fearing man. It's so hard. And the pain really, really sat with me. And before I know it, I think I had flew to Peru with friends, and I had a life-changing encounter with God. We had climbed one of the 7 wonders of the world, Machu Picchu. Took about 2 hours to get up there, and I was like exhausted. I was like, oh my goodness. And I get to the top, and beneath, when you're at the top of the mountain, beneath at the bottom where you can see in the valley is the sacred land that the Incas created, that the Incas built, that is now gone. They're dead because, colonizers, but we're not gonna go there. So you can see below our picture that it was this sacred land, and there's 3 mountains that surround this sacred land. Now, this is the first time I had ever been on top of a mountain. And all my life, I always hear, you can move mountains. And it was like, you hear it. It means nothing. Well, it means something, but but to be on top of a mountain, and then the winds begin to blow. And I'm kind of having this experience, and I'm looking around like, oh God, don't do this to me. It's like 200 people on this mountain. Don't have me break down like this. And it's my turn to take my picture, and the wind blew at the perfect time. And it was like, I could just hear, I'm going to move mountains for you. And I literally just started breaking down because I was like, God, I don't know how to get past this with him. He used everything that was vulnerable about me against me. How do I move past this? And he said, I'm going to move mountains. And I was like, okay, all right. I'm going to surrender all of this to the throne. I'm going to surrender all of this at your feet because I can't get over this by myself. I thought it was you. And I think so many women have that in common where we say, I thought it was God. I get back to the States. 2 weeks later, I'm eating a bowl of oatmeal, and my mom's like, we're ordaining you to be a prophet teacher. I beg your pardon? What God told you this? I'm cool with being the dance instructor and the blogger. Can we just stay there? I get away with a lot. I can still go out and I'm not being judged. Can we just, let's leave me here? She's like, no, God said it's time. And before I know it, flyers went up. I'm preaching, and I'm like, oh, I was just cool being the Sunday school teacher. Now you want people to come out and hear me? Like, what? And then I get ordained, and then the impartation that was spoken over my life, it was mind-blowing because it made sense. While months before I was in Peru and I heard that faint voice, I can move mountains. And as that happened, the book came. People kept saying, why don't you write the book? Why don't you write a book? I was like, write about what? Nothing happened. They was like, write a book off one of your posts. And I was like, well, that Single Christian Girl did. It was lit. It hit. And I started reading it, and God just started downloading things to me. Like, I would have to, the book was created, not even on my laptop. A $1,500 laptop I bought was on my phone, on my iPhone. I'm writing, walking to work in my notes, doing it. And it was like, I didn't even get a chance to use the doggone MacBook I bought for me to write books. I wrote a whole book on my iPhone. Because every time God spoke, I was out. I was walking. I'm in the middle of the night. I roll over and get, because you don't have time to open up a MacBook, do all. So it was like I'm rolling over, getting my phone to make sure I don't miss what he gave me. And I'm like, God, why do you want me to write about celibacy? I don't have the fairy tale ending. I'm not married. I'm not engaged. I'm not even dating. Why do you want me to write this? What do you want me to put out here? He was like, well, it's easy for people to join when they have someone to look to. It's easy to follow when you're doing it. He's like, everybody's story is, oh, I was celibate. He's like, I was. You are. It's easy to impact people when you're doing it. He's like, I don't want you to impress. I want you to impact. And I was like, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. All right. What you say, go. I was like, nevertheless. And that's when God said, I need you to have a nevertheless mentality. Nonetheless. Like, I need you to be like Jesus when he was in the garden. This cup ain't passing. You're my example. You're going to do it, and you're going to do it right. And when it's time, they're going to see and they're going to know I moved mountains for her. That man, I literally created for her. That baby was literally woven in my hand for her. And I was like, okay, they are going to laugh at me. I felt like Carrie. They're not going to laugh at me. What do you want me to do? He was like, I got all of this. You produce it. And then God started putting people in my path. I paid $60 to get the book all together, and that was just the cover. A teacher from my college, he did my book trailer. I was cool with the ebook. I was like, hey, download it. If you ain't got it, not my problem. Somebody came and said, hey, once a year, I print books for people for free. She printed my book, and now it's on Amazon. Like, God was placing people strategically to help promote the book, build the book. All I had to do was just say yes. And I'm getting reviews from people coming in now, like on how the book is helping them redirect their path. It's realigning them with God. It's letting them realize that, hey, this celibacy thing is not just about not having sex. It's about worshiping God in everything you do. Because sex is worship, and I don't think people get that. Like, it wasn't created to just produce, and it wasn't created just for pleasure. It was created for two people at the same exact time to worship God in the most intimate and communing way, without words. I mean, I love worshiping, but to worship like that, I was like, okay, I'm looking forward to that legally. And people are telling me, like, it's certain chapters where I didn't even know soul ties was that serious. And I'm like, yeah, soul ties, premarital sex creates soul ties, and it also promotes poverty. And poverty isn't always financially. Poverty is lacking and emotional, lacking mentally, lacking physically. All of these things are spiritual, and they tie in together. And I mean, I had to learn the hard way. I had to walk this path. And God started letting me know, I need you to walk this path because others are coming behind you. Because so many has tried and they failed. And the fact that you're so honest, like, hey, I started. I messed up, but I started over. I started. I messed up, but I started over. Like, it's okay. He expects for you to fail, but he expects for you to get back up and get back up with him. And these are all the things that I learned, and I implanted them in my book to let women know, like, don't beat yourself up. Extend yourself that grace every morning, every day, regardless of where you are in your walk with God. It is nothing that can separate you from him. And I think this celibacy walk really allows me to understand how much I'm loved. I didn't believe God loved me, and it kept me in a dark place. But hearing I can move mountains, I knew nobody said it. I knew nobody could even understand what was going on in my life because I wasn't even talking about it. I was trying to get over a breakup. And it was like, move mountains, move them to do what? And it was the moment I surrendered it all, it was like, take off. Everything just started moving swiftly. And it was times I felt like I was in place and I was going like this. And I'm like, oh my God, you're showing me all this. Oh my God, you got me doing all of this. And the answer is, I just said yes.
Hey Hey guys, it's your girl Jenny Christian. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Feel, Heal, and Restore. Don't forget to stay up to date on new episodes. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow us on social media at feel.heal.restore on Instagram and Feel, Heal, Restore all together on Twitter. We'll see you soon.